Well, Ryan, you can't have the couch that you're complaining to all week because I am on it and I'm stretched out.
Oh, you're lying down on the couch?
I'm lying down on the couch and I'm not getting up anytime soon.
So what you're saying is I gotta raw dog my misery is what you're telling me.
You have to raw dog your misery. Yes, you've got to
I'm
raw
not
dog
going
your
anywhere
misery.
at this
Wow.
point.
No, you're not going anywhere because you can't have the couch. What a rough couple weeks for both of our teams, but especially the
Yeah.
Leafs. And I called this going into the last couple weeks. If you
Yeah,
recall,
this
go
you
back
said
and
this last week can
listen to
make
the
or break
tape.
them.
I said that last week, and I included this past Monday's game against Minnesota, that 5 game stretch. They needed to get 7 of 10 points. They only got five and went 500 in terms of points, not 500 on the road trip. And then this week of the 3 games, well, if you add Minnesota back into that 4 game stretch this week, they got 1 point out of 8 possible points this week. Terrible. Completely didn't show up on Friday night in an important game for many reasons. First of all, because they need the points. Secondly, Marner back in town for this only game, first time back in Toronto, and the only thing that showed up was the fan base for booing him. The
They
Leafs
they gave a
absolutely did
very
not show up.
they gave him a very credit to the Leafs fans for a vociferous and complete booing of Mitch Marner.
The only time there was some cheers when they played his stupid little video, which I shouldn't. I don't. I'm bitter about that. I don't think they should have played it.
Video.
But the team didn't show up, like completely and utterly hung goaltender out to dry. Stolhart's just was left out in his first game back out to dry. And Vegas was coming in on back-to-back nights after playing a tough game, I think in Boston, and we blew it big time. Had him on the could
Yeah.
have had him easily on the ropes, and we didn't show up. No hustle, no nothing, no forecheck, giveaways. It's just really
And then
disheartening to see the pushback and the unwillingness to put forth the right effort. This is right back to pre-Christmas, and I was belly aching back then about the effort and the style of play and the put forth. They feel like after a good month and get themselves back into the stretch, they've just reverted right back to their old ways for some reason, and I don't understand why. Because I got to hand it. At least Matthews is doing his part. He's got points in 12 of 13 games, but they continue to play way too much in their own end, can't get out of their own end, and allow other teams out of their end way too easily. And I'm not sure there's much else to say other than they got a tough week coming up. They got 5 games before the break for the Olympics, and only one of them is against an East Coast team or an Eastern Conference team. That's Buffalo on Tuesday, and that's going to be
so they don't have any
really
4 point
important.
games. That's the good news.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of games, but they've got to. This is 5 must-win games against tough teams. So I don't.
By the way, they looked like an AHL team against Colorado.
Oh, it wasn't even pretty. It was like Colorado just playing with them. It was if it hadn't been for Wool, the game would have been out of control after the first period. They got outshot in the first period 18-6. If it hadn't been for Wool, that game was over after the first period.
Oof. Oof. Well, I'm telling you, they're looking flimsy on the back end, and you've got to go back to last season and ask yourself, wow, was the Brandon Carlo acquisition one of the worst trades they've made?
Maybe.
Fraser Minton looked he looked a little up and down
okay.
against Montreal, but he looked a lot better for the Bruins than Brandon Carlo looks for the Leafs.
Somebody
right
they
now.
could definitely use, and it's also then puzzling why. Although I get it now, we've heard a little bit more on the Anderson trade that he ended up not signing an extension and wasn't in agreement to sign an extension, which is why Boston bailed on that. I'm sure why other teams,
Yep.
including Toronto, decided they couldn't. It sounded like he really wanted to go to Vegas. He felt that was the best fit for him. So although Vegas didn't sign him, they accepted the trade, and probably is why what we talked about last week is the trade was probably subpar for what you could get for a guy like that. They didn't sign an extension before they traded for him, or taking the risk, but the risk from the sounds of it's pretty minimal that he's likely going to sign there.
Has Vegas ever traded for a rental that they didn't sign?
Yeah, I can't
People
believe it.
want to
So,
play there.
yeah,
I
well, look
guess.
they're a good team, and he fits in really nicely on that team. I still question their goaltending. They got smoked tonight. I think it was what did I say?
7-1.
7-1. So their goaltendings were still a problem. We'll see what happens. There's another uh, um, trade freeze for the Olympics at the just a few days once they break for the Olympics. There's another 2 week trade freeze, so we'll see if something happens before that. But I would guess that they're probably not going to be able to fill that need until the trade deadline, once
No,
the Olympic break is over.
no. By the way, Pierre LeBrun had a really interesting take on the trade freeze and the lead up to the trade freeze. He thinks that there may not be a lot of action right before the trade deadline or the trade freeze before the Olympics because teams don't want to take on that salary and then pay somebody to sit on the beach for 2.5 weeks,
Right, because it does count
which
against
makes a lot
well, it counts
the
against the
salary
cap,
cap.
right? So
Yeah,
you're right. So unless you are forced in a trade, which is some of the dominoes have fallen now. We've talked about this. The other big domino to still to fall will now be Panarin, but that will likely wait till the trade deadline at this
and he's
point.
not going to Toronto anyway,
And he's
which is
not
the
going to
topic at
Toronto, so who
hand.
cares? The other trade that happened, and I'll let you get to your Montreal Canadiens and your belly aching in a few seconds, but the other big trade, sort of minor league trade, was Sherwood going from Vancouver to San Jose, and he'll
Well, the
fit in
fact that
like
San
a
Jose was in
glove.
acquiring mode was pretty impressive. I guess
Yeah,
he's there to get a little grit into that lineup.
yeah, he'll fit like a nice little glove. He'll be an agitator, goal scoring, playing with a little bit of, I don't know, reckless abandon's the right word, but he'll play with a little aggression, as you say, and stuff. He'll fit in that lineup pretty well.
Yeah. Well,
So
they need a little bit of offensive punch. The Macklin Celebrini currently accounts for 38% of
it's
the team's
crazy.
points.
It's crazy.
That's absolutely crazy.
So
Okay,
how's the
so
Habs going? You were. Let's just tell our listenership here how much you were
mhm.
belly aching all last week.
And I'm going to continue to bellyache. And look,
You're
maybe
still in a
so. There's
playoff spot. You're still.
here is my prediction. My prediction is by the Olympic break, Montreal will no longer be in a playoff position.
Wow, that's quite the prediction.
They've
Buffalo
got
did surpass you last night or today with their
Yep.
5-0
So
victory. They've
there's
gone
currently
past
in the
you.
first they're currently in the first wild card, right? But
The Habs are, yes.
yes. But
Tied statistically points wise with Buffalo, but because of wins and losses, you're behind them.
they've got a game, yeah, they got a game in hand.
Right.
But and they've got more regulation wins for sure.
Right.
But their next 5 games before the break at home, Vegas and Colorado, and then on the road, Buffalo, Minnesota, and Winnipeg.
Tough. Again, playing West Coast teams, so it's not playing teams that you can control, except for Buffalo.
Except for
Control.
Buffalo. Buffalo's a huge game, and they have shown absolutely no ability to beat Buffalo. And the state of the Canadians' goaltending right now is sinking again.
Right.
Like there were signs that Monabo had found himself. He looked terrible against Boston. Well, maybe not terrible, but he didn't. He made a few really good saves, and then let in 2 inexplicable goals to lose the game in the third period. I gotta say, they could easily come out of the next 5 games 1-4,
Wow. Well,
and
so question.
they will not be in a wild card position if that's the case.
So question here. If both of us are on the couch looking for a little therapy, who's administering the therapy?
Who's the therapist?
Who's the therapist?
It's like
My wife
it's,
wants nothing to do with it.
yeah. I think
Most people around me hate the Leafs. So,
I think we're in an AI therapy app world at this point,
hello, my
and
name is, and I'm a Leafs fan.
yeah, and AI is going to tell you,
Yeah.
AI is going to tell you we could be here for 67 sessions and you're never going to get any better.
Yeah.
So find a new team. That will
Yeah.
be AI's heartless approach. Will be find a new team.
Well, look, I'd take your position right now over the Leafs. You guys are still, the first wild card team. You're 4 points up on the Panthers, who have won three in a row, 5 points on Philadelphia and Toronto. So you're still sitting in a decent spot. But how about let's give some 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 credit to the Buffalo Sabres.
And the
Fire
Boston
their
Bruins.
Boston Bruins. They fire their GM. They're almost dead last in the Eastern Conference, and they are now sitting third in the Atlantic. And they have two really important games, as you just pointed out. They're playing both the Leafs and the Canadians this week. If they win both of those games, they are going to be solidify themselves in the playoffs and they'll be 2 points up on Montreal if just for those games, and they'll be 8 points up on the Leafs. That will be tough to overcome.
Yeah.
And last year I called them to be in the playoffs. They didn't. This year I said they wouldn't because of last year, and I didn't want to predict it again. But wow, what a
Yeah.
turnaround!
And but even more shocking to me is Boston. I
Oh,
mean,
see, no, do you
it
think
kills
it's
me to
more
give
shocking?
it
Yeah,
kills
because
me
we
to
thought that was an AHL team. We thought that
yeah,
was
I mean, like they're doing it with smoke and mirrors, and with a defense that was missing Charlie McAvoy for part of the year.
yeah.
Jeremy Swayman is playing well, but not fantastically. Although, is the era of the dominant goaltender over at this point? That could be a topic for another day because the days of the 930, 940 save percentage seem to be gone.
Yeah, look at their
Um,
scoring. They're
but
plus
they're scoring.
12.
Morgan, who saw Morgan Geeky as a 40-goal scorer?
Yeah,
It's very impressive. They're 8-2 in their last 10.
it's impressive.
And Buffalo just rolls along 7-2-1. Um, like I said, the Canadians are falling off the pace.
Yeah, look at this could be a little blimp for them because they've been solid all year, and I've said this before. The ebbs and flows of the season. This could be an ebb.
It's an ebb. It's a big ebb
So we'll
because they
see. We'll
like
see. A
their
little
defensive
hiccup. A little
game. Their
hiccup.
defensive game. It's like the two first goals on odd man rushes they gave up to Buffalo in that last loss to them this week were awful, absolutely awful.
Yep.
And some of the turnovers that they're making, they're like leaving guys open. The goal that they gave up to Boston to tie that game up late was I don't understand why Jake Evans just let Morgan Geeky just slide in behind him. It didn't make any sense to me at all.
I have another question for you,
They're
though.
watching the puck. They're turning into a puck watching team.
I have another question for you because I actually, in my view of watching your Habs, and I've watched as much as you have, maybe more,
Well, lately
than
possibly
versus
more
my Leafs.
complete
I
games
think you've
anyway.
actually got the opposite problem that Toronto has. Because I think your problems is, I know you've talked about some of your shaky play by the Habs. I've watched some of the goals, and I never like to blame goaltenders, but I think your goaltending has been weak in the
Very.
last 3, 4 weeks. And I actually think the opposite for Toronto. If it hadn't been for Toronto's goaltending, we might be dead last in the East right now. So the question to you is,
I can't argue with
do you
that.
roll with these two goaltenders for the rest of the season, or does Montreal become a goaltender acquirer before the trade deadline? And who would you like to see if that was the case?
I don't. I
Because it
don't know
doesn't sound
who's
like you have
available.
confidence in these two goaltenders anymore.
No, I don't. And Kent Hughes is not going to make a trade for a goaltender this year.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Given the team's potential success, look at winning the Stanley Cup could be a far stretch, but you could make a bit of a run in the East because the East is still somewhat wide open.
Mm-hmm. Well, Fowler
So,
is your goalie of the future, right?
so
So
would
if
you
you were
not
going to
go
try,
and get somebody that's an older aged goaltender that's got some oomph left in him?
so has oomph and no more than one more year on their contract. Who is that? I don't know if that guy exists. I haven't looked into it because you're raising a question I haven't thought of. I don't think they deal for a goaltender,
No,
honestly.
no. See, I think
I
they
don't
could
think
be an
there's any.
acquirer from the. I don't know if what goaltenders are out there to be acquired anymore.
I don't think there
Here's
is
the
one.
question. Here's the question. Then I got one for you. Do they lure Fleury out of retirement?
Is he, will he get it done? I don't know.
I can't be doing any worse than what you got going on. And
Well,
he's
here's
a
it. Well,
goaltender
all
that's
right. So now you're
risen
making
to
now
he's
you're
risen to the occasion. French goaltender in Montreal puts on the Hab jerseys to end his career, has maybe not the Stanley Cup, but wins a couple rounds or a couple, that could be legendary for him.
mm-hmm.
Finish his career in Montreal, helping the Habs win a few rounds in the playoffs.
Here's another idea. I don't. This is a bonkers one. What would it take for the Canadiens to get Jonathan Quick out of New York? One
Oh,
last run at the
the only
Cup.
problem, that's a great idea. The problem is without Shesterkin being healthy, they can't let him go. I got
Why
another
can't
one
they?
for you.
Why
I
can't
got.
they get? Why can't they put two
Who are they
AHL
gonna put?
goalies?
Who are they gonna put in that?
They're
Yeah, you're
tanking the
right.
year
I
anyway.
get. I get it. I get it. I got another
The
one for
problem
you.
is he's exhausted.
I got
Like
another
you're,
one for you. You might not like
you're
this one.
okay.
Do you guys acquire one of the least three goaltenders? Would Toronto trade one of the three to
Well,
Montreal?
Stolarz is theoretically on the block, right?
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, but yeah, Hildeby could, Bull could be. You could probably get one of the three of them. Maybe Stolarz is the likely
Well,
one. Like,
you guys need to replenish your draft pick
Right.
cupboard. So
So
maybe,
so so would that be an opportunity?
maybe, maybe. I know the Leafs and the Habs don't love
You don't
trading
want
with
to
each other,
trade
especially
inside your
when
division
both
like
of
that.
them, especially when both teams are sort of on the playoff bubble. But
Yeah, but I after this week, if we don't win at least four of these next five, the Leafs should become sellers and give it up.
okay, wow. Four out
Yeah,
of five.
they
That's
have to.
demanding
They
a lot.
have to. They have to. They have to. They're seven. They're 5 points back. With what we say after this 5 games, they'll have 25 games left in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And if they lose these 5 games or lose too many of these last five, they could find themselves almost 8 points out of the playoffs or further.
If they're 8 points out of the playoffs with like four or five teams
Seller,
to jump, it's done.
sell.
Yeah.
Right. So this is going to be a pivotal week for the Leafs. Could be a pivotal week for the Habs. According to what we talked about before this podcast, it was a bit of a pivotal week for the New York Islanders.
Yeah. The New York Rangers. Oh, yeah.
The
The
New
New
York
York Islanders.
Islanders.
Yeah. Let's talk about, let's move off the Leafs and the Habs. I want
Yeah.
to talk about a couple of things. This was something that the Hockey Night in Canada folks got into. And I thought their conversation was vaguely interesting for that crew. But what was more interesting about it to me was the fact that this thing happened. And what happened, the Islanders were playing Buffalo, and they were losing in the second period, and they gave up a late goal in the second period. The game was still within reach, 2-0. But Matthew Barzal loafed on the play. And as you and me, and probably our listeners know, Patrick Waugh is an emotional coach.
He's not afraid to make bold
he
moves.
makes
Controversial
bold
decisions.
moves. And so what he did was not only bench Matthew Barzal for a couple of shifts. No, he not only did he bench Matthew Barzal for the entire third period, he benched the entire line, which included the team's captain Anders Lee. Which leads you to the
Crazy.
question: how do you play the entire third period if like he said after the game, we win here, we focus on winning? Well, benching your number one line and your captain, by the way, the captain did nothing wrong, for an entire third period, and then losing the game 5-0 does not tell your team that you're all about winning. That's all about sending a message and maybe ventilating your own ego a little bit, and exerting power over your team.
I think that's exactly what it is.
And I think there's a very good chance the Islanders still make the playoffs this year and go out in the first round. But I'm telling you right now, after that, there is at least a 50% chance that Patrick Waugh is not coaching the New York Islanders at the starting of next year.
Question then. Who lasts longer in New York? Waugh or Drury?
Ugh, that's a tough bet.
Who should last longer?
That's a tough bet.
Who should last longer is easy.
Yeah.
Waugh should last longer. He should last to the end of the season.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
Rangers should not allow Drury to take this team through the trade deadline or through to the next draft.
All right, I'm going to propose that on Kalshi and see what odds I can get on that.
But here's the other point to the Islanders, because you're right. Waugh, you said at the top of that, what you said there, Waugh is not afraid to make crazy moves and do weird things from a coaching perspective, and he's done a lot of them. But the Islanders are really lucky that they're actually in the Metropolitan Division, because right now, if they
that division is something else.
They'd be out of the playoff race. Well, they wouldn't say out of the race; they'd be out of the playoff spot. So they could fall out because New Jersey could catch them.
Right? Yeah, if they were in the wild card race, there'd be 3 points back.
Right, New Jersey and Washington could catch them. So this is going to be an interesting thing to see how this plays out, and if the team quits on Waugh because of this, the way the Rangers have quit on Drury, apparently.
Yeah,
but so it'll be interesting. The other thing we failed to talk about this week, last week, I think, was the move Columbus Blue Jackets made in
firing
Dean Evison and hiring Rick Bowness, because that is not a move by a team. When you fire your coach, where they did, when they did, there's still got to be a belief in the system. You bring in somebody like Rick Bowness, you still believe you can make the playoffs. They're currently
they're 6-4.
7 points out. They're actually only 4 points out because they could catch the Islanders as well.
Hmm.
But they're struggling, and there's some belief in that room, I guess, that this team could make it to make that change. I love Rick Bowness as a coach. I think he's great. I loved him on the panels too, but it's an interesting move to make where they did. So
I
Columbus,
think the
where we
sell
thought
by.
Columbus could be a selling team at the trade deadline, this may mean there might be buyers, which would be odd.
Yeah, maybe you could be right. I look at the bonus hiring a little bit differently.
It's a stopgap.
I think it's a stopgap. They hired him because there was nobody in the organization that could take over. And, I think the sell by date for Rick Bowness as an NHL coach is long past. I
I
don't
love
think
him
his
as a coach.
tactics and management keep up with the modern game. He didn't do a great job in Ottawa. Let's just say he's a stopgap. And I think it's great that they've, responded to the coaching change. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 2 in a row. Good for them. But until they start picking up their scoring a little bit more, they're going to continue to wallow. And I don't see them catching the other teams, even though they've got, a Norris finalist in Zach Werenski. Kirill Marchenko is turning into a dependable 80-point guy. But
Yeah.
what do they have? Nothing
We'll
else is.
Yeah, you could be right. It could be a stopgap. Who knows? But I just thought it was interesting timing and interesting choice from a coach. You might be right. He might be a relationship there with GM, and that he said, "Hey, can you come do me a solid? And I'll pay you for 2 years to get me through the rest of this season." The
Yeah.
other question is, again, now you being a Hab fan again, so I am grilling you with questions today. Um, how are you feeling about
Oh, by the way,
the team? Oh, sorry.
before you go on and ask me about that, like to finish up on Columbus, they've already kind of punted on this. I mean, they traded Chinikov to the Penguins, by the way, who's done pretty well since
He didn't want to
then.
be there to begin
He
with.
didn't want to be there, but like you're sending a, I don't know, maybe you're improving the locker room by doing that.
Yeah.
But they didn't trade him for players that were gonna,
No,
you
no,
know,
they
hell,
got
now
futures
Dan
basically.
Heinen is not dragging you into the playoffs on his back.
No, no. But
Okay, so what was your question?
so the question is, being a Habs fan, how are you
Yeah.
feeling about the replacement player that Team USA announced in replace of Seth Jones, who's now injured and is ruled out of the Olympics? Instead of bringing in Lane Hudson to replace him, they brought in Jackson Lacombe.
All right. So my first question was: is Pat Verbeek the general manager of the U.S. team, or is it Bill Guerin? Because remember when Verbeek signed him in the offseason to that, what was it, like $9 million a year or whatever it was?
Everybody
And
shook their
you and
heads.
I
Everybody
talked
said,
about it, and we were like,
who's Jackson
Who's
Lacombe?"
Jackson Lacombe?
I still
And
said it. I actually had to go back when I wrote that down. Went, hold on, this was the dude they signed in the offseason and nobody
yeah,
knew. And
who's
he went to
Jackson
a
Lacombe, right?
crazy
And
contract.
now he's playing for his country. Look, I love the fact that in the victory against Minnesota when Guerin was in the building in Montreal last week, both Caulfield and Lane Hudson had fantastic games, including each of them scoring. But I can understand why. Guerin thinks he's got Quinn Hughes, and if you've got one very dynamic point
Well, they also got
producing
Rowensky too.
defenseman, well, yeah, but Werenski's not undersized.
No, but he's
Yeah,
that offensive forward
yeah, you've got
playmaking.
but he's also a fantastic defensive
Right.
defenseman. He's definitely two-way. Um, I guess they decided they didn't need a point producing machine. I don't get it,
Well,
but
here's the stats though. Lacombe at 6'2", 208, -3 with only 32 points. Lane Hudson 5'9", 162, 53 points and a +15. So you can say
yeah.
what you want about Lane Hudson not being the bigger size player because obviously they replaced Seth Jones with a size for size type player, something that'd be a little bit more physical, down low and whatnot. But Lane Hudson, there's a lot to be said for. You get the puck out of your zone and control the puck He keeps pucks out of your own net just as good as making
Oh
big
yeah,
checks,
and
right? So
he's learned to use his low center of gravity and his stick to make just as effective plays as smashing a guy into the boards.
yeah, and there's something to be
Uh,
said for his youthful enthusiasm too.
yeah, yes,
So I just thought that was a little interesting. I get size for size, but I don't know. You didn't get the better player in my mind.
probably not. I don't think you did.
Mm.
I think look, if PK Subban says that Lane Hudson is going to challenge for Norris trophies, that
I
guy
don't
knows
take
what he's
anything
talking
PK
about.
Subban takes her seriously. He thought he was an MVP player.
He did. He did. But while we're on this subject, and maybe we wrap up the episode with this discussion, is there are a lot of injuries in the game right now that are affecting Olympic rosters.
But no, look no further than Team Sweden.
And yeah, I mean, we can start with Team Sweden because they're the ones that got abused the most. But that looks like they're going to miss Brodin. It looks like they are, probably most likely going to be without Leo Carlson,
Oh, they are.
who's going to
He's
be
been
a
ruled out.
star.
He's
He's been
been
ruled
ruled
out.
out.
Okay. Um, Victor Hedman should be back, but you don't know what shape he's going to be in. Landeskog, not going to play. I doubt it.
Doubt it. Eric
Nylander,
Carlson
who knows? Eric Carlson, I mean, that's a
and
good chunk of
and
their
Joel
back line.
Exerson,
Eriksson Ek.
Erickson Eck. So again, as you point out, that's three or four big defensemen that they could be without,
Yeah.
and some top level scoring on the offense.
Yeah. So,
They
by the
are
way, you would
going.
know this better than I would. Is Sweden in the U.S.'s group or Canada's group?
You know what? I should have checked that before this. I can't remember.
All right. Because they're
But
not going to be as big a threat as we thought.
no,
No.
and if even if they're only missing three or four of these six guys or seven guys, that's going to be damaging to their team.
Yeah.
They could be finding themselves on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And we all thought that, hey, look, if they didn't have a great Four Nations, but they have a team there with a great team and some good goaltending. So who knows what's going to happen in the Olympics? They seem to rise to the occasion, but wow. But
Yeah.
we talked about this, and I know we want to get off the air and not talk too long. We've said this. What has this compressed schedule done over the last two seasons? Players are getting hurt in bunches, more players. There's more. I feel like and I don't feel like it's just because of the Olympics in terms of that we're talking about injuries. I just feel like there's more of it
Yeah.
than we ever has been, and it's you got to equate it some level to this compressed schedule and these players just playing way too much in the last 2 years. It's just not this year; it's last year as well, and this is hurting.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to hurt the Olympics; it's going to hurt the NHL in the long run.
Yeah. So let's go to Canada. So it looks like Sorelli will be back. So that's good. Braden Point, that's
It's questionable.
yeah, it's questionable. You got to have, and we talked about maybe Connor Bedard taking that spot, which would be cool. I didn't realize that Devon Tays was a bit of a question mark. They're saying he's getting better, but
Mm.
you never know. That brings you to Finland,
But
and
before you go off Canada for a second, but let's just,
okay,
we're going to talk about the other teams and their injuries. Let's just talk about depth, though. The depth of players that are available for Team Canada, and we can just name, Bedard on the offense.
yeah,
You could take anybody you want to take, and you could take it to back at Schaefer. You've got other defensemen we've talked about. Who are you taking on Sweden?
no,
What,
they
what
don't. They
they
don't
don't
have that
have the
kind of
same
depth.
availability. I'm sure you can bring guys in that still NHL players, but you're not getting the same quality of player. You have Bennett we can bring in. We can bring in, we've talked about the
Well, we
all-star
talked.
team that Team Canada has that's been left on the bench.
Yeah, you like.
So,
There's an argument that Team Canada's B team could compete. Could make the medal round
right.
potentially.
So, but yeah,
Um,
Finland just is that's
yeah, Finland's well. I mean, I'm going to go through Finland because you can't pronounce any of the names. All right,
no.
so
I'm not even gonna try.
Joel Kiviranta, bottom six guy, could return, but they're not sure. Rasmus Ristolainen might be back. Tuvo Teravainen, he's skating in a non-contact jersey these days. Who knows? Czechia, Dan Vladar's back, so they may have a goalie, but that's pretty much where they're coming out. then you got to look at the U.S. And the reason why I want to bring up the U.S. To finish is because Seth Jones is the only notable absence. Like, they are healthy as heck. And so,
I thought it was an interesting commentator this week that will remain nameless. It said last year's roster for the Four Nations and not just last year's, but 2014, the last few international tournaments, the team that they have named has been 1 goal short of winning a gold medal.
Yeah.
This team is still 1 goal short of winning a gold medal, in my opinion.
And Cole Caulfield is staying at home.
Yes. So I'm, you can say what you want of being healthy. You can be healthy and have the wrong players.
I know. And I really hope Matthew Tkachuk forgets that fighting is illegal in IIHF rules and gets suspended for a game, gets a game misconduct and a suspension for dropping the gloves.
I think they're going to have to put a sign on his wristband that says, don't fight. So when he drops his glove, that they says, I can't do this.
Like the plays on a quarterback's wristband, just written in big letters, don't fight.
The only good thing to happen to Team USA in the last month is that Matthews has woken up. Because if he had gone into the Olympics the way he'd been playing in October, November, and the first half of December, the U.S. was really in trouble.
Yeah.
And the only good thing is that he's seemingly woken up.
Yep.
And so we'll see. But anyway,
we'll see.
Tough week for both of our teams this week. Both of us might need some therapy, and both of us might be on the couch next week when we do our podcast.
All right, well, tune in.
We'll see you next week on the Aiming 5-Hole podcast, in which one of Ryan or I will be on the couch. See you next week, Ryan.
Bye, Phil.
The rock and roars a fiery tune.